Good afternoon. I welcome our members and guests to this convocation of the Beta chapter of the District of Columbia Phi Beta Kappa. I am Lynn Meyer, Vice Provost for Teaching and Dean of Undergraduate Studies, and a member of the chapter. Joining me is Dr. Jennifer Paxton, the chapter's secretary. We have assembled today to admit to membership 51 persons who have been duly elected by the chapter. I will now call upon the secretary to read the names of the candidates for membership in course. Would the candidates please rise?
Madam Presider and fellow members of Phi Beta Kappa, I have the honor to introduce these persons for initiation into the Beta chapter of the District of Columbia, the Society of Phi Beta Kappa. Audrey Maria Adams Mejia, Claudia Elise Alatorre Garcia, Madeline Yvonne Allard, Phoebe Harper Atkinson in absentia, Madeline Rose Baker, Claire Bolin, Regina Ann Brennan, Veronica Brown, Matthew David Shavira, Brendan Michael Civitello, Jill M. Collins, Grace Catherine Connolly, Emily Elizabeth D'Antonio, Joseph Edward Deemer, Emma Christine Dodson, Thomas Nelson Domkowski, Elizabeth Mary Frances Ensler, Adrian Ray Finocchio, Nisa Maria Stacy Flanders, Natalie Grace Fulgeri, Nicholas Gear, Kristen Marie George, Abigail Grace Grabowski in absentia, Shannon Marie Griffin, Jonathan Theodore Harrison, Cameron Naver Heiss, Elizabeth Ann Hughes, Connor Thomas Hurley, Jana Marie Faustina Jedrich, Magdalene A. Jensen, Bridget Teresa Kilner, Stephen Joseph Kirby, Eleftheria J. Kourlakis, Viola Lawson, Andrew Lucas, Gregory Thomas McKeown, Joanne Regina McMahon, Angela Ruth Mykert, Josephine Lacey Miller, Joseph McBaron Mitchell, Zachary Joseph Morelli, Therese Pham Nguyen, Paul Hervé Pierre-Marie Quesnel, Allison Marie Siders, Carrie Marie Carol Selitker, Ashley Victoria Smith, Anna Lynn Stevens, Allison Straub, Catherine Rose Suzek, Monica Torres Pawinski, Rachel Marie Dugan Wood. Ladies and gentlemen, the members of the Beta chapter of the District of Columbia, the Society of Phi Beta Kappa, class of 2021.
I want to welcome all of you, initiates, families, and friends, and my fellow members of the Society to this ceremony. I would like to introduce some special guests, starting with our University President, Mr. John Garvey, our Provost, Dr. Aaron Dominguez, our Senior Vice Provost and Dean of Graduate Studies, Dr. Stephen Brown. I would also like to recognize the deans of schools from which our initiates come. I'll ask the deans to rise when their names are called. Dr. Susan Timoney, Associate Dean of the School of Theology and Religious Studies. Dr. John McCarthy, Dean of the School of Philosophy. Dr. Matthias Vorwerk, Associate Dean of the School of Philosophy. Dr. Thomas Smith, Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Seth Smith, Associate Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. Mr. Kevin Wrench, Assistant Dean of the Bush School of Business. Warm greetings and congratulations from Monsignor Mark Morozevich, Dean of the School of Theology and Religious Studies, Dr. Jackie Leary Warsaw, Dean of the Rome School of Music, Drama, and Art, and Dean Andrew Abella of the Bush School of Business, who are unable to be with us today. We also owe thanks to the members of the University chapter of Phi Beta Kappa, who worked hard to select those worthy candidates and prepare this induction ceremony. Would all the members of the Catholic University chapter of Phi Beta Kappa please stand? Thank you all for being with us this afternoon. One last acknowledgement. Thank you to the families and friends of the inductees for supporting them on this challenging but rewarding journey. We are so glad that you could join us online. We are recording this event so that you can enjoy it together in the future. In the meantime, would the inductees please give your families and friends joining us online a well-deserved round of applause. Of all the celebrations taking place on campus this weekend, this is among those in which the university takes special pride. Phi Beta Kappa has been for 245 years the preeminent scholastic honor society of the United States. This is the 81st annual initiation for our chapter. As is our custom, we will call upon our chapter secretary, Dr. Jennifer Paxton, clinical associate professor in the Department of History and director of the University Honors Program, to present a brief history of Phi Beta Kappa.
The Greek letters Phi Beta Kappa are the initial letters of the Society's motto, Philosophia Biou Kubernetes, which means philosophy, or the love of wisdom, is the guide of life. Phi Beta Kappa is the oldest of all intercollegiate Greek letter organizations. Unlike most fraternal groups, ours does not impose secrecy upon any chapter, but it does exact, as the prime qualification for membership, distinction in scholarship. The stated purpose of Phi Beta Kappa is to promote both scholarship and friendship among students and graduates of American colleges. Phi Beta Kappa was organized at the College of William and Mary on December 5, 1776. It was the first society to have a Greek letter name, and it introduced the essential characteristics of such societies: an oath of secrecy, a badge, mottos in Latin and Greek, a code of laws, an elaborate form of initiation, a seal, and a special hand clasp. Phi Beta Kappa was created as a secret society so that its founders would have the freedom to discuss any topic they chose. Freedom of inquiry has been a hallmark of Phi Beta Kappa ever since. Charters were soon granted to Harvard and Yale. The two New England chapters preserved the essential qualities established by the Virginia chapter. However, in 1831, Harvard dropped the requirement for secrecy, an action that saved the society from further criticism, as well as from rivalry with the Greek letter social fraternities that made their appearance at about this time. New chapters were added gradually. The number stood at 25 in 1883, shortly after the first women members were admitted at the University of Vermont and Wesleyan University. In the years since, chapters have been added steadily but selectively. There are now 290. The Beta chapter of the District of Columbia was established at the Catholic University of America in 1941. Election to Phi Beta Kappa is everywhere based upon the same criterion: scholarship of a high order. In recognition of the Society's dedication to scholarship, we are very pleased this morning to be inducting two honorary members into our chapter. Dr. Aaron Dominguez, who was elected in 2020, but whose induction had to be delayed, and Dr. Timothy Noon, who was elected in 2021. Dr. Noon is joining us remotely. Dr. Noon is the holder of the Father Kurt Pritzel, OP, Chair of Philosophy in the School of Philosophy at the Catholic University of America, and a world-renowned expert on medieval philosophy, particularly the work of the philosopher-theologian Blessed John Duns Scotus. Dr. Noon received a BA in History from Lock Haven State University in Pennsylvania, an MSL in Medieval Philosophy from the Pontifical Institute of Medieval Studies in Toronto, and an MA and PhD in Medieval Studies from the University of Toronto. He taught at St. John's University and St. Bonaventure University prior to coming to Catholic University in 1994, where he has also served terms as Assistant Dean of the School of Philosophy and Director of the Program in Medieval and Byzantine Studies. Dr. Noon is co-director of the international effort to establish critical editions of the Opera Philosophica and Opera Parisiensia of John Duns Scotus. He is the author, editor, or co-editor of 8 books, 25 book chapters, and 31 scholarly articles. Dr. Noon has served as president of the Society for Medieval and Renaissance Philosophy and vice chairperson of the Société Internationale pour l'étude de la Philosophie Médiévale. And he has been a member of review panels for the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Swiss National Science Foundation Humanities and Social Sciences Division. Dr. Noon is also a highly effective teacher at both the graduate and undergraduate levels. He has directed 14 dissertations for both philosophy and medieval and Byzantine studies, and he has taught for many years in the philosophy sequence of the University Honors Program. Dr. Noon is also an accomplished harmonica player and an excellent cook, talents that he has shared with our students and colleagues on numerous occasions. For his many contributions to scholarly excellence and rigorous teaching, we are proud to induct him into our chapter. May I ask Dr. Dominguez to step forward? Dr. Aaron Dominguez is provost of the Catholic University of America, where he oversees the academic life of the university's 12 schools, as well as its libraries, research institutes, and the Catholic University of America Press. From 2016 to 2019, he served as Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Dominguez is also an ordinary professor of physics. His main area of research is in using particle collectors to search for new physics, including the recently discovered Higgs boson. His area of expertise is in instrumentation, designing, building, and using silicon-charged particle trackers as precision tools to reconstruct the complicated interactions taking place in these collisions. He received his undergraduate degrees from Whitman College and Caltech, and his PhD in physics from UC San Diego, and he was a postdoctoral researcher at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. In 2005, he was the recipient of the NSF Career Award. He has served in numerous leadership positions at the CERN Laboratory in Switzerland and Fermilab in Chicago. He is currently deputy project leader for the upgrades of the compact muon solenoid and is the principal investigator of an NSF project that is funding the US efforts of 9 universities to improve the silicon pixel detector, hadron calorimeter, and trigger in preparation for high luminosity runs of the Large Hadron Collider in coming years. He sits on several advisory boards, including QuarkNet, and is an author on more than 1,100 papers in experimental high-energy physics and instrumentation. He is truly a scholar-teacher who leads by example, and our chapter is proud to recognize his dedication to fostering academic excellence for the entire university community. Congratulations. I would like to ask Dr. Dominguez to remain at the front of the stage to take the oath with the inductees who are present with us in person, and Dr. Noon to join the inductees who are participating remotely as Dr. Meyer administers the induction oath.
Would all of our initiates stand in order to be inducted into Phi Beta Kappa? We welcome you into Phi Beta Kappa, a society that looks upon the honor you are now receiving not as a reward for work excellently done, but rather as a pledge of future zeal and achievement for the benefit of your fellow women and men. As students of the Catholic University of America, you have an additional incentive in the tradition of learning which stretches back through the centuries to Jerome, Augustine, and Christendom. We ask you always to be mindful of the purpose of this society to promote scholarship and friendship among the students and graduates of American colleges and universities. Now I will ask the initiates, including our honorary members, to make the following promise. You may signify your assent by saying, "I do." Do you promise to obey the Constitution and the laws of Phi Beta Kappa, and do you promise to do all in your power to uphold the ideals and exemplify the principles of the society? And now, in honor of your induction into our chapter, I would like to present Dr. Dominguez with this certificate and pin, and I ask him to sign our membership book. President Garvey, an initiate of the Notre Dame chapter, will now welcome our fellow members of Phi Beta Kappa.
Thanks, Lynn, and congratulations to all of you. I also want to congratulate your parents and families, some of whom are here today. They were your first teachers, and it was from them that you first learned, so remember that as we honor you, we're honoring them too. Phi Beta Kappa is a society with a long history, as Dr. Paxton has recounted. It was begun as a debating club the year we signed the Declaration of Independence. The original bylaws had the members meet weekly, and 4 were selected to perform at each session, 2 in matters of argumentation and the others in apposite composition. And they took on big topics like the justice of African slavery, or whether a wise state has any interest nearer at heart than the education of the youth, or whether anything is more dangerous to civil liberty in a free state than a standing army in time of peace. They used to worry about things like that. It sounds like a precocious undertaking for a handful of teenagers, but in the 18th century, people did stuff like that. Societies dedicated to philosophical discussion and debate already existed at Harvard and Yale. They were preceded by academic associations like the Royal Society in England, was founded in 1660 and dedicated to the pursuit of truth through experimental investigation. The Royal Society had an impressive track record. It was they who published Newton's Principia Mathematica, and also Benjamin Franklin's kite experiment, which was a big deal on the continent. The members of these associations knew that the pursuit of truth is a team sport. It requires solitary hours in the lab or the library, but ultimately it's collaborative. One person's discovery makes another's possible, and peers evaluate the merit of each other's work. They sharpen each other's wits. It's a funny thing that today we make membership in such societies a kind of reward at the end rather than a part of the education process. For the last 4 years, you've been part of an academic community. You've investigated truth in your classes and refined your ideas in conversations outside the classroom. Only now, as you're leaving, do we induct you into Phi Beta Kappa. But today should not be the end of your academic career, as you have been already reminded. My old friend Larry Bragg once defined an intellectual as somebody who reads books after he gets out of college. That's a good start, but find friends to read with. The pursuit of truth is like a pilgrimage. It's better undertaken in good company. If you get lost, you have somebody to call you back. If you're on the right track, you have somebody to encourage you. Most important, you have someone who can share the pleasure of discovering and knowing the truth along with you. So, congratulations once again, and God bless you all.
Thank you, President Garvey. Our new members will now come forward to add their signatures to the membership book and to receive their certificates with our congratulations. We ask the initiates to stand 1 row at a time and process to the right of the stage as directed by our marshals. You will then come up on stage as your name is called, sign the membership book, and receive your certificate. You will then process off the stage and retake your seat from the side aisle.
I am pleased to call forward the following students. Audrey Marie Adams Mejia is from Manchester, Connecticut. She majored in politics and minored in philosophy and psychology and earned a certificate in video production and digital storytelling. Audrey is proud of receiving the 2021 James E. Dornan Award for Most Distinguished Politics Major of the graduating class. She will be returning to CUA to complete a master's degree in political theory as part of the 5-year BA-MA program. Audrey hopes to continue her education through the graduate level and eventually return to academia as a professor. Audrey Adams Mejia. Claudia Elisa Alatorre Garcia is from Celaya, Guanajuato, Mexico. She majored in politics and minored in Italian studies. Claudia writes, One of my greatest achievements has been learning Italian. I am very proud of being able to speak 3 languages and would like to continue to learn more. Claudia hopes to stay in the DC area to work in immigration to help other immigrants like herself, and she would like to obtain a master's degree in Latin American studies. She would ultimately like to help improve democracy and security in Latin America. Claudia Alatorre Garcia. Madeline Yvonne Allard is from Troy, Michigan. She earned dual degrees in English and marketing. Madeline is proud of sharing CUA's unique culture and resources with prospective students in her work with the admissions office and of serving as president of the CUA English Society. She will be working at home in Michigan as a training coordinator at United Wholesale Mortgage and is looking forward to laying down roots near home with my family and friends, exploring and contributing to the community of Detroit, and developing a career in instructional design. Madeline Allard. Phoebe Harper Atkinson is from Austin, Texas. She majored in economics. Phoebe is proud of graduating a year early, even after changing her major sophomore year. She plans to commit at least 1 year to an entrepreneurship project and read as many books as she can to always continue learning. And she hopes to build a business and be her own boss while raising a big family. Phoebe Atkinson. Madeline Rose Baker is from Raleigh, North Carolina. She majored in international economics and finance and minored in Spanish. Madeline is proudest of having founded the Washingtones a cappella group. She will be pursuing a master's in applied economics at the University of Maryland and working as an economic consultant in DC, and she hopes either to work as an economist for the federal government or to get her PhD and become an economics professor. Madeline Baker. Claire Bolin is from Silver Spring, Maryland. She majored in mathematics and minored in philosophy. Claire is proudest of her work as a resident assistant for 3 years. She will be working as an operations research analyst, PAQ, in the Chief Data Office of the Air Force Civilian Service, where she will complete a 3-year training program. Claire Bolin. Regina Ann Brennan is from Yonkers, New York. She majored in politics and anthropology. Regina is proudest of being a leader and lowering barriers to access and social inclusion. She will continue working for Senator Bob Casey and hopes to become an immigration lawyer and a public servant. Regina Brennan. Veronica Maria Brown is from Silver Spring, Maryland. She majored in philosophy. Veronica is proudest of completing 3 honors tracks. She plans to find a job and work for a year while she figures out her next steps, and she hopes to go to graduate school. Veronica Brown. Matthew David Shavira is from Phoenix, Arizona. He majored in Hispanic Studies and Education Studies. He is most proud of working alongside his friends to win the Novak Symposium's Social Justice Hackathon addressing underperforming schools. He will attend Arizona State's Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law in the fall, and he hopes to be a successful lawyer helping as many people as he can. Matthew Shavira. Brendan Michael Civitello is from Middletown, Connecticut. He majored in politics and minored in German, theology, and philosophy. Brendan is proudest of being elected as student body treasurer for 2020-21. He will work for a year while applying to law school and hopes to practice law. Brendan Civitello. Jill M. Collins is from Silver Spring, Maryland. She majored in philosophy pre-law and minored in economics. She is most grateful for the relationships she has built here. This summer, she is getting married and starting work as a paralegal for a firm in DC. She plans to use her paralegal experience to decide whether she wants to go to law school, and if so, what type of law she wants to study. Jill Collins. Grace Catherine Connolly is from Yonkers, New York. She majored in biology. Grace is proudest of being the champion of Dr. Petruccione's Latin 103 morphology exam in fall 2018. She has exciting plans for the future that she will share when the time is ripe. Grace Connolly. Emily Elizabeth D'Antonio is from Westchester, Pennsylvania. She majored in psychology and minored in theology. Emily is proud of being on the Dean's List each semester and being the president of CU Allies, the unrecognized LGBTQ+ organization at Catholic. She plans on working in research full-time before applying to PhD programs with a focus on gender studies. Emily plans to earn a PhD, create her own research lab, and teach at the university level. Emily D'Antonio. Joseph Edward Deemer is from Gambrills, Maryland. He majored in politics. Joe is proudest of making the NUMAC Conference an academic all-conference team 2 years in a row. He plans to pursue a master's degree in criminal justice and public administration, and he ultimately hopes to go to law school and become an attorney. Joe Deemer. Emma Christine Dodson is from Cary, North Carolina. She majored in international economics and finance and minored in sales. Emma is proudest of her position as assistant to the director of the sales program for 3 years. She has accepted a job at VMware in Austin, Texas, and she hopes to achieve a leadership position at an organization where she feels she is truly inspiring positive change. She is also looking forward to exploring the city of Austin. Emma Dodson. Thomas Nelson Domkowski is from Farmingdale, New York. He majored in theology and religious studies and minored in philosophy and media and communications, and he earned a certificate in pastoral ministry. Tom is proud of being selected for the Renew Core team, on which he served for 2.5 years. He will be serving the church for 2 years as a member of the Notre Dame ECHO program, teaching 6th and 7th grade theology at St. John Henry Newman Catholic School in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he hopes to be a high school theology teacher. Tom Domkowski. Elizabeth Mary Frances Ensler is from Lugano, Switzerland. She majored in mathematics and minored in Italian studies and psychology. Elizabeth is proudest of assisting in the process of getting pornography blocked from the university servers. She will be teaching high school math at Georgetown Visitation in DC. When asked about her long-term plans, she replied, "Only the Lord knows. Step 1 is to begin teaching and get married." Elizabeth Ensler. Adrienne Ray Finocchio is from Altoona, Pennsylvania. She majored in psychological and brain sciences. She is proudest of graduating 2 semesters early and never receiving a class grade under an A-. Adrienne plans to work full-time in the mental health field while earning an MS in psychology, and then earn a PhD in clinical psychology and work as a psychologist. Adrienne Finocchio. Nisa Maria Stacy Flanders is from Washington, D.C. She majored in classics and minored in philosophy. Nisa is proud of acting as musical arranger, manager, rehearsal coach, choreographer, lecturer, and performer for a lecture recital of vocal and instrumental chamber music celebrating the influence of opera on instrumental music. She is pursuing an MA in Greek and Latin at CUA. Nisa hopes to cultivate the household arts and educate her progeny, God willing. Nisa Flanders. Natalie Grace Fulgeri is from Centerport, New York. She majored in education. Natalie is proudest of becoming a certified registered behavior technician to work with students with autism spectrum disorder and apply ABA therapy programs. She will attend graduate school for special education and would like to teach students with special needs in a classroom setting. Natalie Fulgeri. Nicholas Gear is from Williamsburg, Virginia. He majored in theology and religious studies and minored in philosophy. Nick is proud of participating in a jazz concert meditating on scripture, combining his interests in both theology and music, and of playing what he modestly calls a small role in the founding of CUA's Political Literature Club. He will pursue a master's degree in theology at CUA and hopes either to continue on for the PhD or teach theology at a Catholic school. Nick Geer. Kristen Marie George is from Bethesda, Maryland. She majored in elementary education. Kristen is most proud of keeping a stellar academic record that allowed her to be accepted into this prestigious society while also participating on the Catholic University women's basketball team as a team captain, along with cultivating lifetime friendships. She will be studying for a master's in special education at American University this fall and hopes to stay in the DMV area to teach in an elementary school, volunteer in a religious education program, and coach young girls in basketball. Kristen George. Abigail Grace Grabowski is from Frederick, Maryland. She majored in philosophy and minored in theology and religious studies. Abigail is proudest of being named Women's D3 Ultimate Frisbee Atlantic Coast All-Region Player of the Year and of setting school records in the 55-meter dash and 55-meter hurdles. She plans to find a job and get married in the fall. And as for the long term, Abigail continues a trend in this cohort by saying, I quote, "Only God knows." Abigail Grabowski. Shannon Marie Griffin is from Heartland, Wisconsin. She majored in international economics and finance and minored in Hispanic studies and philosophy. Shannon is proudest of having been part of the honors program and of graduating as a university scholar. She will be completing the Masters of Integral Economic Development Management at the Catholic University of America and hopes to make a positive difference in the world by working in the fields of economic development and/or intelligence. Shannon Griffin. Jonathan Theodore Harrison is from Elkridge, Maryland. He majored in theology and religious studies and biochemistry and minored in mathematics, and he earned a certificate in pastoral ministry. Jonathan is most proud of helping to contribute to the Catholic University community, where everyone is encouraged to live a life of service to others and to grow in both their faith and their academics. He will work in post-baccalaureate research at the National Institutes of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases at the National Institutes of Health. He hopes to earn an MD, PhD, and become a physician scientist. Jonathan Harrison. Cameron Naver Heiss is from Great Falls, Virginia. Cameron majored in psychological and brain sciences. He is proudest of passing the senior comprehensive exam in psychology with honors. Cameron will seek work in the field of psychology before moving on to graduate studies and then hopes to pursue his interest in psychology and neuroscience. Cameron Heiss. Elizabeth Ann Hughes is from Boonton, New Jersey. She majored in philosophy and English. Elizabeth is proudest of being the editor-in-chief of Invencio. She will be working in the administration of Oakcrest School in Virginia and hopes to teach English at the middle or secondary school level and to pursue an advanced degree in English literature. Elizabeth Hughes. Connor Thomas Hurley is from Ellicott City, Maryland. He majored in psychology and drama. Connor is proudest of playing a leading role in the Sondheim musical A Little Night Music, with both President Garvey and Jacqueline Mars in attendance. He plans to take a year off from school to get used to working and save up some money for further education, and then hopes to attend law school and practice law, where his background in psychology and theater will no doubt be helpful. Connor Hurley. Jana Marie Faustina Jedrich is from Stafford, Virginia. She majored in history and minored in theology and philosophy. Jana is proudest of winning the Best Paper Award for her history thesis at the Phi Alpha Theta Regional Conference. She will attend William & Mary Law School and hopes to work in D.C. as a lawyer for the Department of Defense. Jana Jedrich. Magdalene A. Jensen is from Fort Worth, Texas. She majored in history and minored in data analytics. Magdalene is proudest of completing her junior seminars and senior thesis for her history degree. She will be working at the Manuscript Division of the Library of Congress this summer in their Junior Fellows program and continuing to take graduate courses for her master's in Library and Information Sciences. She is hoping for a career in a public or school library. Magdalene Jensen. Bridget Teresa Kilner is from Kensington, Maryland. She majored in Spanish for international service. Bridget is proudest of defending her thesis in Spanish. She will teach English in southern Spain with Medias, and she hopes to work as a medical interpreter translator and possibly pursue a master's in nursing. She also wants to note that her parents met while at CUA, and that she is their 8th and final child to attend CUA. Bridget Kilner. Stephen Joseph Kirby is from Severna Park, Maryland. He majored in philosophy and minored in theology and religious studies. Stephen is proudest of the Chamber Choir Spring Concert in 2019. He will be studying theology at Mount St. Mary's Seminary for the Archdiocese of Baltimore and hopes to be ordained a priest for the Archdiocese of Baltimore in 2026. Stephen Kirby. Eleftheria J. Kouralakis is from Potomac, Maryland. She majored in psychological and brain sciences and minored in theology. Ellie is proudest of performing in the Rome School's fall opera production during her sophomore year. She will be pursuing a master's degree in speech-language pathology at the University of Maryland, College Park, and she hopes to work in a pediatric hospital or rehab setting as a speech pathologist. Ellie Kouralakis. Viola Lawson is from Washington, D.C. She majored in theology and religious studies and education studies. Viola is proudest of being the leader of Sidewalk Ministry for 2020-2021. She will be participating in the PACT program, earning her master's degree in education and teaching freshman theology at a high school in Rhode Island. She hopes to teach Catholic school theology and perhaps one day have a family and a nice garden and some chickens. Viola Lawson. Andrew Lucas is from Gambrills, Maryland. He majored in theology and religious studies and minored in philosophy. Andrew is proudest of being invited to join Phi Beta Kappa. He will be pursuing an MTS degree at Boston College School of Theology and Ministry, where he was awarded a full tuition Dean's Scholarship and stipend as graduate assistant for New Testament abstracts. He plans to pursue doctoral studies, a vocation to the religious life, or teaching at the secondary level. Andrew Lucas. Gregory Thomas McKeown is from Trumbull, Connecticut. He majored in politics with a concentration in world politics and in criminology, and he earned a certificate in intelligence studies. Gregory is proud of being the president of the Catholic University Intelligence Club for 2020-21. He plans to be employed, by whom he does not know yet. He hopes to eventually work for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Gregory McKeown. Joanne Regina McMahon is from Del Mar, New York. She majored in studio art. Joanne is proud of winning the 2020-2021 Karen Laub Novak Art and Faith Scholarship. This summer, she will be painting a mural for the School of Social Work in Shahan Hall. She wants to pursue a career in children's book illustration. Joanne McMahon. Angela Ruth Mykert is from Lamont, Illinois. She majored in theology and religious studies and minored in philosophy, and she earned a certificate in digital art and design. Angela is proudest of being a regular recipient of Dean's List honors. She will be working in the digital design world, hopefully with a Catholic company. She hopes to be a wife and mother while continuing in some creative field part-time. Angela Mykert. Josephine Lacey Miller is from Allentown, Pennsylvania. She majored in philosophy and theology and religious studies. Josie is proudest of working as co-head copy editor on Invencio and ending her career by getting published in the journal herself. She is going to law school at William & Mary, and she will be getting married in 2023! Exclamation point. Josie Miller. Joseph McBaron Mitchell is from Silver Spring, Maryland. He majored in history and minored in classical civilization. Joseph is proudest of writing his senior thesis and presenting it for Research Day. He plans to get a job to keep money coming in and get a head start on paying back student loans. He hopes to get involved in a career that combines his history interests with his work experience at Mullen Library and possibly go to graduate school later. Joseph Mitchell. Zachary Joseph Morelli is from West Greenwich, Rhode Island. He majored in drama and pursued the pre-med track. He is most proud of having been cast in the Rome School's production of The Laramie Project. He will be taking time off to gain work experience in medical settings, take the MCAT, and apply to medical schools. He hopes to graduate from a prestigious medical school and set up a successful practice. Zachary Morelli. Therese Pham Nguyen is from Oceanside, California. She majored in musical performance with an emphasis in piano and minored in philosophy and French. She writes, "The time and effort I spent on learning and performing the pieces for my senior recital was my greatest accomplishment as a student at CUA." She is graduating a year early and plans to teach piano at Oak Clef Incorporated. She hopes to teach at Oak Clef on the professor level and finish the music and lyrics for a musical she is writing about her Asian American heritage, and to continue to play for church and produce original music. Therese Nguyen. Paul Hervé Pierre-Marie Quesnel is from Rockville, Maryland. He majored in philosophy and minored in theology and classical civilizations. Paul Hervé is proudest of maintaining a consistent 3.98 GPA. He plans to begin doctoral studies at Marquette University and hopes to get married and start a family, earn a doctorate, and teach philosophy. Paul Hervé Quesnel. Allison Maria Seigers is from Richland, Washington. She majored in politics and Spanish for international service. Allison is proudest of being accepted into the British Parliament internship on her first try. Allison will be attending the University of St. Andrews in Scotland to earn an MLit in international political theory. She hopes to live abroad and work in international relations. Allison Seigers. Carrie Marie Carol Silidker is from New Hope, Pennsylvania. She majored in mathematics and theology and religious studies and earned a certificate in pastoral ministry. Carrie is proudest of becoming a resident minister and earning university scholar. She will be attending Villanova Law School in the fall and hopes to work as a pro-life attorney. Carrie Silidker. Ashley Victoria Smith is from Ambler, Pennsylvania. She majored in psychological and brain sciences. Ashley is proudest of being inducted into Psi Chi and Phi Beta Kappa. She will be attending Thomas Jefferson University's Doctorate of Physical Therapy program and hopes to become a physical therapist for neurodegenerative diseases. Ashley Smith. Anna Lynn Stevens is from Bartlett, Illinois. She majored in English and secondary education and minored in French. Anna is proudest of standing in defense of the most vulnerable unborn while serving as president of Cardinals for Life for nearly 2 years and becoming a published author in Volume 5, Issue 2 of Invencio. She will be staying in Northern Virginia to work in defense of the unborn on a full-time basis with the Susan B. Anthony list and hopes to put down roots and spend time with family and friends as she begins her career. Anna Stevens. Allison Straub is from Seabright, New Jersey. She majored in history and minored in politics pre-law, philosophy, and English. Allison is proudest of her senior thesis on the role of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the landmark women's rights case, U.S. versus Virginia. She writes, This semester-long project was truly a labor of love and an opportunity for me to honor one of my role models, Justice Ginsburg. Allison will attend Boston College Law School and hopes to use her law degree to be an advocate for others. Allison Straub. Catherine Rose Suzik is from Boston, Massachusetts. She majored in politics and history and minored in Islamic world studies. Catherine is proudest of presenting her senior history thesis at 3 undergraduate research conferences, including the Phi Alpha Theta Regional Conference, where her paper earned 2nd place. She will be enrolling in a master's program in conflict transformation and social justice at Queen's University Belfast, and hopes to research radicalization and violent political conflicts in order to help resolve conflicts and build resilience in post-conflict societies. Catherine Suzik. Monica Isabel Torres Pewinski is from San Juan, Puerto Rico. She majored in biology. Monica is proudest of belonging to the Dean's List every year and meeting some great friends along the way. She is looking forward to attending medical school back in Puerto Rico in August, and she hopes to practice medicine there. Monica Torres Pewinski. Rachel Marie Dugan Wood is from Worcester, Ohio. She majored in theology and religious studies and English. Rachel is most proud of being published twice in Invencio, Catholic University's undergraduate research journal, and winning the Phi Beta Kappa first-year experience essay prize for her first submission. She will begin a Master of Arts in English program at the University of Dallas this fall and hopes to teach English literature and/or theology at the high school or college level. Rachel Wood. Please join me in congratulating our new members.
Now I have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Dominguez to speak.
Thank you all and congratulations. And I just want to say how full my heart is with gratitude and joy to be here with you and to listen to these great stories, these little biographies of you and your accomplishments here at Catholic University, who you are as young people, and your plans for the future. And it gives old guys like me hope that this country is going to be okay. So thank you for being here and being part of Catholic University of America. You're a real blessing for us and for this nation. And you now are joining this organization that's as old as our nation itself. This organization's championed education in the arts and the sciences and fostered freedom of thought and recognized academic excellence. By these achievements during your times here at Catholic University, you can now rightly be honored as the best and brightest undergraduates in the entire nation. Our liberal arts curriculum here at Catholic remains the core of who we are as a university. Every student here, including those in the professional programs, takes foundational courses in philosophy, theology, and the humanities. As they move into their specific majors, including STEM fields like myself as a physicist, students are introduced to courses with Catholic teachings specific to their fields, so that even in our professional programs, the values and teachings of our faith and the church are always present. It's through this integration and this recognition that we're joined together in our common humanity to work together across the world on big problems, where we recognize that God has created us in this way in order to do this. This is the fundamental connection between science and the liberal arts, faith, and university. I'm a physicist, an experimental particle physicist. I've spent my entire career in academia and universities and laboratories around the world asking fundamental questions and working hard to answer them with my colleagues. Almost nothing that I've done has been a solo activity. Practically everything that I've been able to be part of and accomplish has been done with other people. Being a scientist like this has been a dream job since I was a little boy. I always knew I wanted to be a scientist. I didn't know what a physicist was until I went to college, but I did know somewhere deep in my heart as a little boy that I wanted to study nature. My whole life's also been marked as my faith journey as a Catholic boy, and these two things have always been part of me, two halves of a whole, as I think they are for many of you out there in your various pursuits. I'm extremely fortunate to have worked and to continue to work with my colleagues at the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland. Our group here at Catholic University builds these particle detectors that are like super fast digital cameras. They can take pictures of the radiation that comes from the small nuclear explosion that happens 40 million times a second in the middle of our apparatus. That's what we're doing here in Hannon Hall just next door. We use the Large Hadron Collider, which is the largest machine ever built by humankind, to study the basic building blocks of nature and the rules for putting them together. The machine accelerates protons, which are the nuclei of hydrogen atoms, in two evacuated beam pipes in opposite directions using magnets. They're traveling nearly at the speed of light around this circular accelerator, 27 kilometers in circumference, at nearly the speed of light. In order to achieve this very high energy of protons, we must use superconducting magnets, which must be cooled with liquid helium to negative 271.3 degrees Celsius, which is only 1.3 degrees above absolute zero, which is even colder than outer space, which on average is 3.5 degrees above absolute zero. So not only is this machine that we built together the largest machine ever built by mankind, but it's probably the largest, coldest place in the universe, unless there's some aliens out there that built a bigger one, or until we build the next bigger one in Texas. The tunnel for these beam pipes, the liquid helium distribution, the power, the cooling, the data cables, they're all located about 100 meters underground. It's underground for two reasons. One, because of the background, or the radiation produced by the accelerator when it's in operation, but mainly because in this area of Geneva, in this glacial valley, that's where the stable bedrock is. The experiment that I work on with my colleagues is called the compact muon solenoid, which is about the size of a 4-story building, so taller than the Priz, and located about 150 meters underground in a huge tunnel. Being down there and working on this experiment, it's really like being on the set of some science fiction movie. But it's real, and we're actually doing it. We're actually doing it together. The reason that we are doing this, that we create these conditions that were present on average about a trillionth of a second after the Big Bang, the event that initiated the creation of the universe, is because we want to know what the universe is. What is it that God has given us? It's a basic search for truth. That's what we're doing. And it's a huge human endeavor. It literally requires the cooperation of thousands and thousands of scientists, which is why if you heard in my biography that I've been co-author on many papers, it's because I didn't write them all. I worked with my friends who did. And it's not just American scientists, it's scientists literally from around the world. In fact, if you're working down there in that cavern, you hear French, which is the main language of Geneva, you hear English, you hear German, you hear Swiss German, you hear Polish, you hear Russian, you hear Chinese, you hear every language, basically, that man speaks, and we're working together. And here we are, this afternoon, together, in this room, self-aware pieces of this creation that came out of this event. And we're driven to understand the world that we live in. We're driven to understand, to ask, what's the meaning of this? And this search for understanding our world and meaning is clearly built into who we are. This is deeply part of what every human person is. And that expression, that search, takes many different forms, and not just in my work in physics or my fellow scientists. We see it in the learning of a foreign language and the understanding of other cultures, so that we may bridge the gap that may exist between peoples, meeting them where they are, and learning how to speak with them as they speak. We also find it in the singing of songs, in the writing of poetry, the expressiveness of the human experience, through the movements of dance, the playing of musical instruments, even the harmonica, Tim. We find it in the studying of our history, so that we may learn from the successes and failures of the past. We find it in the investigation of humanity's deepest longings through philosophy and theology. Our search for knowledge and understanding of who we are and what this means helps us make sense of this amazing natural world that we find ourselves in. The search gives meaning. And science cannot do that alone. Science cannot give you the meaning of the world. And science needs the liberal arts, the sacred arts, as necessary partners to help us understand what this all means. As scientists, human beings have really uncovered amazing facts. This fact of the creation of the universe 13.8 billion years ago, which came out of nothing. There was no space or time that existed before that event. And as people of faith, we've learned through divine revelation why this has happened. And also that it's perfectly compatible with our natural understanding of the world. As people study the liberal arts, human beings have found methods to express both how the science and why, the why of faith, that are innovative, challenging, and meaningful. By asking questions like, what's the meaning of this? How do we do this the right way? What is good about this, or what is bad about that? What is the truth? Where do we find beauty? How do we find transcendence? How do we understand our relationship to each other, to nature, and to God? This search for knowledge must always remain the fundamental connection between science, faith, and the liberal arts. We should look where God lives within us as a mirror to reflect with humility upon these scientific endeavors. How do these endeavors affect our lives, our souls, and those of our fellow human beings? How do they lead us to God? This is the connection between the liberal arts, science, since everything we do and everything we study is an opportunity for us to find God and to find meaning in God's creation in ourselves. Recent graduates have commented that the education they've received here has not only prepared them for the technical challenges of their fields and professions, but also the ethical challenges that come with technology and scientific advancement. They've learned both the how and the why. And they're more prepared to question both the why and the why not, as well as the should or should not. So congratulations again on your induction into Phi Beta Kappa, and for your willingness to continue asking the questions of how and why, while acknowledging the source of all truth. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dominguez. I now have the honor of announcing the James Marshall Campbell Award for 2021. Monsignor Campbell was for many years Dean of the Undergraduate College at the Catholic University of America. It was largely through his efforts that this chapter of Phi Beta Kappa came into being in 1941. The award that bears his name is granted each year to a graduate, chosen by members of Phi Beta Kappa, whose outstanding scholastic achievement best exemplifies the ideals of the society. The award will be conferred this afternoon, or tomorrow afternoon at the Honors Convocation, but as is customary, the recipient's name is announced at this celebration. I am happy to announce that the winner of this year's Monsignor Campbell Award is Jonathan Harrison. I ask Jonathan to rise while I read a brief commendation. Jonathan is graduating summa cum laude with a double major in biochemistry and theology and religious studies, graduating with a cumulative 4.0 GPA, and was on the dean's list for all 8 semesters. He has been awarded the University Honor Scholarship and Parish Scholarship, the 2021 College Chemistry Achievement Award from the Chemical Society of Washington, the Frank Kuntz Award from the Catholic University Cardinal Leadership Celebration, is a member of Theta Alpha Kappa Honor Society, and is a university scholar. During his time at Catholic, Jonathan has been very active in research on and off campus. Since 2018, he's worked with Dr. Greg Miller in the chemistry department. During the summer of 2019, he worked as a summer research intern with Dr. John Hanover at the NIH, and during the summer of 2020, he performed remote research with Dr. Miller while also working to process COVID-19 tests as a lab technician at Real Diagnostics. Jonathan has been very active with ministry and service during his time at Catholic. Since 2019, he's worked as a program associate at the Catholic Apostolate Center, where he led much of the effort in the development of www.catholicfeastdays.org, an in-depth resource on Catholic saints and feasts. Jonathan works part-time as well for the Conference of Major Superiors of Men of the United States, the Association of the Leaders of Male Religious Communities. Jonathan has also worked with the Cardinal Service Corps as a community service leader from 2019 to 2021, which included weekly homelessness outreach and immersion experiences in Philadelphia and El Salvador. In addition, Jonathan has been a resident assistant from August 2019 to May 2021, I'm guessing, has been active in the chemistry club, at different times acting as president and treasurer. He has worked with the Student Activities Committee to develop plans for student involvement as a result of COVID-19, and was a senator in the Student Government Association from 2019 to 2021. After graduation, Jonathan will continue his research career with a post-bac position at the NIH, where he will work with Dr. Jenny Hinshaw, who studies how materials enter and leave cells and how this process relates to human health. Congratulations, Jonathan. The secretary will complete our program by explaining the symbols of the society.
The gold key is the official badge. On one side are engraved the letters Phi Beta Kappa. On the other side, the date of the society's founding, December 5th, 1776, as well as the member's name, college, and class. The 3 stars in the upper corner of the key represent 3 principles in the philosophy which the founders accepted as the guide of life: fraternity, morality, and literature. The script monogram, SP, stands for the original description of the society as a Societas Philosophiae, Society of Philosophy. We now ask one of our initiates, Andrew Lucas, to offer a benediction.
Let us take a moment to quiet our hearts as we call to mind the presence of God. And let us begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving and generous God, before you formed us in the womb, you knew us. You know us more intimately than we know ourselves. It is you who calls us by name in the silence of our hearts, asking us to follow you. And although we may be unsure and afraid of where this call might lead us, we are confident that you will walk beside us each step of the way. As we conclude this chapter of our lives, we remain hopeful that you will never leave us to face our battles alone. For it is you who casts out darkness with light, hatred with love, pain with peace. Gathered together today, we ask you to conform our hearts and minds to your will, so that we may follow ever more closely the path that you have set before us. May this day always remind us of the gifts that you have bestowed upon us during our time at CUA, so that in all things we might give greater glory to you. With a steady and nurturing hand, fill us with your Spirit, Lord, so that we may be pierced with the fire of your love. Open our hearts so that we may receive this love, so that in all we do, we may be pleasing to you. We ask this in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you to the Office of the President and the Office of the Provost for their generous support of this ceremony. Finally, let me offer our deep gratitude to the staff of Events and Conference Services, especially Anita Triggs, for doing so much to help us celebrate your achievements safely and for making it possible for your friends and family to celebrate with us remotely. This concludes our ceremony. Now, before we leave, we invite you to take out your cell phones if you have them with you, start taking some selfies, and text it to your family and friends who are watching at home. Congratulations again.